Good morning. This is Talk Back to Television, and we're here with our friend Jon Giegengack from Hub Entertainment Research. John, how are you?
Hey Rick, how's it going?
I'm fine. Now, you have a different background. You're in the attic somewhere, but you're in New
It's
Hampshire. You're not flying
I'm
around the
in I'm
globe
in I'm
today.
in Jackson, New Hampshire, up near Mount Washington. So I'm technically on vacation this week, but have made time for this show because it's so much fun.
And
And
how
my
much
wife and my
snow?
son are out
How much
skiing right
snow
now.
did you get this last time?
About a foot and a half, and it's snowing out. It's snowing out right now a little bit.
Yeah, it's real pretty, but dude, I'm really tired of this. Okay, I
Yeah.
mean, it's enough.
We don't have as much snow here as there is in New York City,
Oh,
so I
my
can I
friends
can
in New York
empathize.
just they got shellacked, and Rhode Island got 30 inches, and
That's
oh my
insane.
Lord heavens.
Yeah, we don't even I'm close to the tallest mountain on the East Coast here is about 15 minutes away, and we don't have nearly as much snow as there is in Manhattan right now, which is odd.
There you go. All right, now listen, we're going to talk about artificial intelligence, AI, and mostly generative AI, and
Hmm.
what consumers think about that. And you've got a report you actually just came out with a Hub Intel deep dive. Give us a broad perspective, and we'll dig into the details.
Yeah, so obviously AI is on everyone's lips right now, and over the past year, we have been about a year and a half, we've been doing research on AI to try to dig down more into what are the things, because most of the attention I think gets paid to, what are the capabilities of AI in terms of generating content or in terms of things maybe saving money, like making post production more efficient. But the thing that people have not been asking as much is what are they excited to see, and what are they willing to accept in terms
Yep.
of a role of AI? So that's what all of our research centered on because we thought that there would be a lot of benefit to know if you're a studio or if you're a streaming service or if you're an AI company, what are sort of the lowest hanging fruit? So the things that AI can help with that the actual audiences who need to consume this stuff to make it profitable will be willing to consume. And so that's what we have spent a lot of time, including the big annual study that paper is based on. What are the optimal and the most accessible roles for AI in terms of the things that consumers will want to watch?
So generally, as I glanced through that report, I was a little bit surprised that consumers appeared to take the side of the artists and the unions when it came to who owns the rights to my image and my voice. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that's one of the big takeaways is that, I mean, the way that I put this to our clients is that, the most controversial, the most sort of existential threat applications of AI, things like generating video or generating actors, those are not the things that people are most interested in doing. So when you ask people about, AI in general, not just limited to entertainment, but what are their biggest concerns? The number one concern that people have about AI is losing the ability to distinguish what's real from what isn't,
Ah,
and we see that uh, definitely evidenced in where people are confident with the use of AI in entertainment. So they are not comfortable with things like, we asked about Tilly Norwood, the AI generated actress, uh, and and people were generally not a fan of that. When we sort of described uh, the nature of the issue, kind of the two opposing sides, the company that created this actress, which would allow for more flexible and more efficient creation of content, and then obviously on the other side of that are the actors and the guilds who are concerned about having AI generated talent that puts regular humans out of work. When you put that to the average consumer, overwhelmingly they fall on the side of uh, the artists themselves, the humans. And when you ask them about what's your interest level in watching content that includes AI generated actors, that's at the bottom of the appeal for the different use cases that we tested.
okay. So
Um,
now there's a scale here. Let's
yeah,
try to look at this. I'm watching a cartoons, and cartoons have always been artificially created.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's
And
not really. I mean, they are hand drawn. If you go
but
back far enough.
but they are clearly not human.
Hmm.
Okay. And as we get more realistic animation, I'm thinking about my grandson. We mentioned this playing a game on Madden, and for all the world, the football players on the field looked real. Okay.
Hmm.
But he was controlling them. So they were computer generated.
Yep.
Whether that's artificially intelligence generated, they weren't real people. Okay. And are you saying that where's the consumer drawing the line? Is it real people versus anything that's not
It's
real, or is it real people versus things that aren't real that are pretending to be real? Am I asking the right
it's
question?
the biggest point of contention seems to be around if something looks real but it isn't, so that you wouldn't be able to tell.
Okay.
And another place that we saw that evidence is we asked people, what level of obligation does a streaming service or does a studio have to tell you if you're watching something that was created with AI? And 92% of consumers said uh, that yes, they need to reveal that that's the case. Uh, about 8% said that it could be sort of just they make that information available and I can go log in and check it myself. But everybody else, so 90% of people basically said that there should be some kind of a push notification. So like a disclaimer that shows up
Yeah, yeah,
like a
yeah.
rating
Or
does in the
or one of those boxes with AI and the red circle and the line through it.
Yeah,
Like,
and
no, I.
it's important to note that AI is still really new. So,
Yep.
for instance, there are more people in our survey who say they use AI than there are people who say that they actually understand it or how it works. So, I think that a lot of these, as people grow more comfortable with it, I think that we may see some of these attitudes start to shift. But at least right now, the thing that people are excited about AI helping them with are sort of the more quote unquote boring tasks. So like if AI can make it so that they see ads that are more relevant to them,
Yeah.
they're all in for that. If AI can be used so that they can do get better recommendations or make it easier to search content by being able to do like natural language searching, they're all signed up for that because that's one of the biggest problems they have with watching TV anyway. So there are AI applications that they're not only accepting of, but they're really excited about. They're just they're just not the ones that have to do with generating content kind of from whole cloth.
Okay. So if we used to say that Tom Cruise wasn't really hanging on the wing of the biplane and it was shot against a green screen. Okay,
Hmm.
well, yeah, that's how all the old Star Wars movies were made.
Yeah,
Or then it was shot with miniatures and then people patched in. And we sort of all get that because, that's the way it was done. And then all of a sudden we got to computer generated and it was still Tom Cruise, but he was actually hanging on a bar in a gym somewhere and they overlaid the
yeah,
imagery of the airplane. So they're okay with that as long as
they're
it's really Tom Cruise?
yeah they're more okay with it being used for things like post production or special
Okay.
effects or dubbing, so that you can really quickly move like a title into other languages, other countries. They're
Yep.
much more accepting of that than they are of actually like that video that came out a couple weeks ago with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise fighting each other. That's the kind of application that makes people uncomfortable, at least right now, because they can't, because it looks real and people don't want to be deceived.
Okay. All right. Now, what
Now there's
about,
one there's one there's one important, I think, not a caveat, but one distinction to this that I think is one of the most interesting things we found in this study is
yeah,
that we asked people about their comfort level, with all these different potential use cases, but then we also asked them, uh, how comfortable are you with AI that's being used by another person versus how comfortable are you with AI that's being used by a company to generate revenue?
okay.
And the comfort level with other people using AI is much, much, much higher than it is with AI being used for commercial applications. And then that actually extends to uh, AI that's used to generate content. So one of the things we asked about in particular was Disney's new partnership with OpenAI, where Sora will be able to, people will be able to use Sora and or maybe do this within Disney Plus, where you can generate your own video using Disney characters and worlds and Disney IP. And that was something that the comfort level with that was much, much higher than any of the other content generation stuff that we asked about. And it's because it's the users themselves that are going to generate it, not some studio is going to use AI to generate that, and regular people won't be able to tell the difference. If you put the AI into the hands of the individual users, that changes the whole equation with how comfortable they are with generating content with it.
which kind of means I could use that equipment, that software, Sora and Disney, to replace you with Goofy, and it would be okay for me to do that, but then I couldn't charge for it.
A lot of people said they would pay Disney for that, and it's funny you mentioned that because our graphics guy for one of the presentations I did on this actually made like a Disney-fied version, like an
There you
avatar
go.
of me, which was hilarious. And he even made me like super jacked, like the prince.
Oh my Lord. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Now listen.
So that was an AI usage that I enjoyed.
We got to dig into this because it's going to drive us all stark raving insane as we're coming into the elections.
Hmm.
We're all going to see ads that are attack ads by candidate A against candidate B, and the
Hmm.
video they're running about candidate B is completely AI. I would assume the viewers would object to that if they knew.
Yeah. I mean, I think for sure they would. I'm not sure that we'll see. In fact, I don't think that we'll see kind of fabricated video that's in political ads, but we'll see tons of video that is floating around on social media, and maybe that is put there by people that are supporting one candidate or another. What I think is that what will happen with all of these deepfake videos is I think that people are going to become more cynical about anything that they see online, and there's always going to be the chance that uh, you know, because it might be fake, they're going to be less likely to accept almost anything that they see, and that's a bad thing if there's real video or real evidence that people are doubting. But I think personally that the more critical people are of everything that they see online, and especially that they see on social media, the better, because there's people have been getting fooled by social media way before there was deepfake video to do it with. And I think that anything that makes people sort of uh, take a more critical stance to what they're seeing online rather than just believing it is not altogether a bad thing.
I would hope that's the case, but one thing we know about politics is that if what I see happens to support the thing that I believe,
Yeah,
all of my doubts and skepticism go out the window because it supports what I believe. But if it's a different point of view, I'm automatically going to say, nah, that's fake. I mean, we do have somebody who always says that everything is fake news.
yeah. I mean, the people. I think people do that anyway.
And they
Um,
do that anyway,
it's
whether
human
it's
nature.
AI
This just
or,
confirmation bias. It wasn't hard without AI video to convince people that folks were imprisoned in the bottom of a pizza parlor. Uh,
right.
so I don't think that you need AI video to sort of engage that confirmation bias. I guess one thing going for us is that the stuff that actually gets said in politics these days is crazier than what you could make with an AI video anyway. So there might not be that much
Yeah, we
that
just
inclination to fabricate it
don't
if the
believe
stuff makes sense.
anything. Vote with your heart. Okay. Last thing, you make some recommendations in your paper that, as far as the studios and the content creators are concerned, this is not already. It's not already here. It's been here for a while, and your competition is ahead of you, no matter what you think you're doing. What can the studios? You just came off a long meeting with Warner. What can the studios do?
Well, I mean, I think that we're already seeing if you look at the acceptance of legacy media companies. So the idea that Disney signed this deal with Sora, like you never would have heard, that would have never happened
Right.
even a year ago. Um, so these companies are recognizing that there are silver linings to AI, and some of them are pretty significant. And regardless, there's no putting this genie back in the bottle.
Right.
So I think the fact that Disney is, I mean, if I think that was maybe my pick for like the biggest news story of 2025, this partnership, because it shows that they are embracing this technology and trying to get out in front of it, which is the opposite of what all the legacy media companies did when streaming launched, where they all just tried to say this will never catch on,
Right.
tried to resist it. But I think getting out in front of it is actually demonstrably way better. Like imagine if Disney Plus had been launched in 2010 instead of in 2019. Uh, the whole story, the lead that Netflix got with this new shift in consumer behavior would never have been so large. So I think the fact that they are adopting this early and taking some chances and trying to leverage it is a good thing. It doesn't mean that legacy media and AI are all friends now. You know, Disney sent Google a cease and desist letter the exact same day that they announced their partnership
Yep.
with OpenAI. So there are those threats are real, but I think we do see more media companies recognizing the potential, and the potential that this has is huge. What it really does is it lets you take your IP and make it interactive. So instead of being kind of Hollywood content that sits on a pedestal only to be watched and never to be interacted with, it makes it something that viewers can use and manipulate on their own, and that makes IP like Star Wars or Marvel or what have you a lot more similar to Roblox or to Fortnite. And that's really what the next generation of
Yeah.
consumers wants is content that they can interact with and use and make their own.
You know, the business model there, we've had it for a long time. It's called licensing.
Hmm.
So instead of licensing the figure of Obi-Wan Kenobi to Mattel, Disney can license the image, the character, the graphics with their approval
Hmm.
to Mattel Video Inc. And then Mattel goes out and makes stuff that is licensing and reimbursing Disney, who in turn will reimburse the estate of Alec Guinness. And, you know, I mean, we know that model. This isn't brain surgery.
No, it's
It
it's it's
just kind
better.
of
And I mean,
explodes, but it's the model that we all know and we're
it,
familiar
it
with.
generates more revenue, but it also generates much deeper engagement with,
Yeah.
with Star Wars or with Marvel. And it's interesting if you look back at about a year ago when Disney, 2 years ago when Disney announced their partnership with Fortnite with Epic Games. The language in the press release where they talk about why they did that is almost identical to the reasons that they said they made this partnership with OpenAI. The reason is they want to put their IP out where more of the fans can find it and also make it interactive. So it's not a static, behind the velvet ropes relationship. It's something you can touch and feel and use. And there's tons and tons of data, including data that we've gathered that shows, for instance, if you put your IP in a video game, how much deeper the connection is with people than if it's only, living on a TV show. And I think that as consumers and as companies become more comfortable with AI, that there's less of it that is a complete unknown. I think this could really turn into a huge uh, source of revenue and source of engagement for these legacy media companies that then own all the IP.
I agree. I agree. And you no longer need to have 20 million people watching it and using it to have it make money because your production cost is actually bupkis. You, the studio, are licensing it out to somebody else who's making it. So they're taking all the load of the production and they're just paying you every time somebody watches or
It's
some
just like yeah,
variation
just like
thereof.
the kind of like the YouTube model where you let your audience your or on Roblox uh, they generate a ton of their revenue and their engagement from content that's being created by other
Yeah.
Roblox
Yeah.
users. And as they just broke last year. Roblox did they spent I think $1 billion on creator compensation. Uh, but if you look at the charts, their results as the amount they're spending to reward creators for making their own Roblox content, as that goes up, so does the amount of time spent
Yeah.
on Roblox, and so does the revenue generated by the company. So it's really just it's not an expense; it's an investment that lets your biggest fans become the ambassadors of your IP and basically go out and sell it to all the other fans on your behalf.
I like that a whole lot. All right, listen, we're out of time. This is going to run next week, and just so everybody knows, we're going to see you at the TV of Tomorrow show in Montreal. So we're all
Yep.
looking forwards to that and getting out of town before the cars start racing around downtown
Exactly.
Montreal.
And if
Uh,
anybody wants to, as you mentioned, we do have a paper that we publish with a bunch of data from the study, so you can get that at our Substack, which the
it's right there.
address is written right next to your head there, hubintel.substack.com.
See that? I can even know how to point to it now. All right,
Perfect.
Jon Giegengack, buddy. Thank you for your time, and we'll catch you again. Bye bye.
Thanks, Rick.